team. Now I have the pleasure of introducing from a different perspective on how to gauge families with the great outdoors and our unique offerings that our country has for everyone. I have John Van Dreese, and he is the general manager of Northern Tier High Adventure of the Boy Scouts of America, and he came all the way from Minnesota to be with us today. So thank you, John.
Thanks. Well, let me start by just thanking everybody for this great opportunity to tell you a little bit about our program. To kind of paraphrase John Muir, we think that a wilderness experience offers a clear pathway into the universe for young people. And that's kind of what we're about trying to do with this outreach program. I'm going to get into it a little bit more, but first I thought I'd try to give you some background information on just where we're coming from. Again, I'm the general manager at Northern Tier. We've been in operation up there for 95 years, not me, but the base, running canoe trips in the Boundary Waters area. This summer, we'll camp about 6,500 high school age kids out of our base in Ely, Minnesota, and we have 2 bases, satellite bases, if you will, in Canada, in Ontario and Manitoba provinces. We're located, if you're not familiar with this area, we're located in what's called the arrowhead of northern Minnesota, and it's kind of that wedge-shaped piece that sits between the north shore of Lake Superior and the Canadian border. The Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness is a 1 million acre unit within the Superior National Forest, and take my word for it, if you haven't been there, it's just absolutely stunning wilderness and just an awesome place. In fact, National Geographic listed it as one of their 50 places of a lifetime to visit. So if you haven't been there, I'd by all means encourage you to get up there. It's just awesome. So we started, so I mentioned that we're one of 4 high adventure bases within the Boy Scouts of America. We're a national program. The way the scouting program is set up, all the scouts and families that are involved belong to local scout councils, and so we work through them. And you could think of them as kind of like local franchises that are chartered by the national organization to provide scouting programs in a given geographic area. So our history, we've always been very solidly middle-class organization, done a great job of serving those populations, and probably for the last 40 years we've been making efforts to do more to serve low-income areas and minorities. But we're still not quite at serving a representation of today's, proportionally of today's demographics. And so this program was kind of an effort to try to do a little bit more in that direction. We started out by talking to local councils and getting their input into it, and then decided that we would just take a leap of faith and throw ourselves into this. So in 2015, we began talking to specific councils, specifically St. Louis, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Kansas City, about having them identify groups that could come and benefit from this experience. We also realized that there were a lot of obstacles. Our goal was real simple, to be able to put a true high adventure experience in the hands of kids from underserved populations. So that was a pretty simple goal, but the logistics and the details of trying to get there got really complicated in a hurry. So we decided to go into a program that we kind of referred to as roadblock removal, listing all the different barriers and then just aggressively trying to come up with solutions that would counter those obstacles for getting kids into the wilderness. We came up with basically 3 areas that really that all these sort of obstacles would sort of fall under. One, there was a need to devote a lot of preparation in terms of both mental and physical fitness to have a successful experience. We also encountered a lot of anxiety on the part of the scouts and their families about diving into a program like this so far away from home and in such a wilderness setting. If you think about it, I mean, it's a pretty big leap of faith, very much stepping outside your comfort zone if you're a kid from East St. Louis. And then last, we needed really good leadership. We felt like we needed people that were going to be patient and compassionate, as well as having the hard skills of knowing how to successfully guide a wilderness experience. We also needed these folks to instill confidence and a trust level in a very short time period. So it was kind of a tall order. Well, how did we do it? Well, first we went to the 3 councils that I mentioned and asked them to identify youth from the underserved market areas. St. Louis, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Kansas City. As a side note, the St. Louis Council just months before had started a program in Ferguson trying to help in some ways heal the divisions within that community. And we were just really happy to have 2 of the scouts from that program actually joined us that first summer. So that was really a great, great opportunity for us. So we asked them to help identify the kids. We also asked them to find a local venue or site where we could do a 3-day shakedown, camp out with the scouts. We asked them to provide transportation up to northern Minnesota and home again. And we also asked them to provide an adult leader to come with the group to augment the staff person that we were going to put in place. So what did Northern Tier do? What was our responsibility? First, we waived all of our fees for these groups. Secondly, we recruited staff members to go and actually conduct these shakedown orientation programs, along with the same exact equipment that they would be using on the trek. And this had a lot of benefit because right away they got a chance to be familiar with the actual equipment, and it added to sort of that comfort and relieving that anxiety, I guess. And then, of course, these same staff members were going to serve as their guides when they actually came on the trek. And so that helped build some confidence, and it helped relay some of the fears that families had, because they could actually have an opportunity to meet who was actually going to be taking their son or daughter into the great wilderness area. We were really lucky to be able to find this staff, actually not so lucky. We each summer hire about 200 college-age kids that work for us, and they come back year after year, about 50% of them. And so we had just tremendous buy-in from these young people right from the get-go on this. They were all very passionate about this program. They all wanted to be involved. And so we had no problem at all finding volunteers. In fact, we had lots and lots of staff that we had to say, well, maybe next year we'll put you on a waiting list. Our traditional programs tend to run 6 to 14 days. We seized for this program on the idea of doing a block of a 10-day period that includes like their travel. And so they had 5 days on the water, and at the end of the trek, we had sort of a decompression day where they got to spend the day in Ely, Minnesota, seeing some of the sights and attractions, and culminating with a night that they spent actually at the International Wolf Center, which in hindsight, I'm not sure that that's such a decompression to be sleeping and wake up and look through the window and see a wolf staring at you at night. That was, but anyway, it was quite another adventure before they went home. we had just really a great response to all of this. We were also concerned about the finances for the program, and I'd have to say we worried about that. We kind of took it on faith the first summer, and so far we've actually been able to fund the program just through our operating budget. However, we pretty much immediately started looking for other sources, because one thing that we really wanted to do was to give this program some longevity and legs. The other programs that we had looked at, either within the Boy Scouts or outside, seemed to go through a pattern where they were functional for a number of years and then they suddenly died. And it usually was because that passionate leader left to go on to something else, or the funding just sort of fell apart. And so we really wanted to try to create right from the get-go something that was going to have some sustainability. So we started looking, and we didn't have to look very far. That very fall, members of our committee and other supporters that were involved in a fishing tournament, an annual fishing tournament that we've had heard about the program already, got very excited about just the results even from that first summer, and they agreed to designate the funds from that fishing tournament to go to this and future programs like this. And so to date we have almost $70,000 that we have banked, and we're still using the money out of our operations, but it's great to have that nest egg there for potential future things. So we're very happy about that, obviously. I also, you know, if it wasn't for the U.S. Forest Service, I've got to give a shout out to my friend Gus Smith, district ranger up there in the Superior National Forest, and just everybody in his staff. We do so much stuff with them besides this program, and they're always just very accommodating and ready to sort of bend over backwards. I think they really get it that we're raising a generation of people that are the future patrons of their parks and services. So it's just been really great to work with them. And the program continues to be successful. This summer we have 3 crews coming from the St. Louis area, 3 more coming from Minneapolis, St. Paul, and 2 from the Kansas City area. And going forward to 2019, we've got interest, really pretty strong interest from Chicago, Detroit, and Indianapolis. So we hope that we're going to continue to be able to expand the program. I put in, you know, obviously, just like everybody else, we always get feedback, and I put in just a couple quotes from some of the young people that participated in our program over the last 2 years, and they all had a great time. We've actually had a number of the participants come to us afterwards and say they'd like to join us and work on our staff when they turn 18, which hopefully, I think there'll be a couple of them next year, and hopefully they'll still remember that. But also, and probably in some ways even more telling, we did kind of a 1 year later type interview with a number of them. And whereas the initial reactions, you can imagine, wow, it was great, it was a lot of fun, I didn't think I could do it, comments like that. After a year, already there was sort of this introspection and reflection that we thought we would get, where they talk about just the friendships that were created, the self-confidence, boost in self-confidence from going through the experience, and appreciation for wilderness and the natural world. And then in some ways really most telling, just a very much a sense of confidence going forward, and almost a sense that of, gee, I can do, you know, maybe my vision for myself and where I'm going in my future can be expanded a little bit more, and you know, I found out I can do something that I never thought I could, and that's really what we were going for, going back to John Muir, right? That pathway into the universe. So I'm really excited about it. I do want to introduce my friend Jim Wilson. For those of you that are involved in Boy Scouts or maybe know, none of us that work for the Boy Scouts do this alone. This whole organization is heavily leveraged by our volunteers, and Jim is the chairman of our base committee, so he's been very supportive and right along with us in the whole process of getting this done. As I said, we're really excited about what we're doing. We're not affecting a huge number of people, but I think as time goes on, we're going to find out that the ones that we do affect, it's going to be some pretty profound stuff. So again, thank you so much for this opportunity, and I'll pass this on to the next